Oh, man. Welcome to Afternoon Delight. All questions are answered. Anything goes. Sisu, what's up? Man, Perry. Oh, man. Perry, I am doing fantastic. I'm just going to level with you. Wow. All right. Buffalo blowing out Jacksonville. Okay. Little unexpected. A little unexpected. But I mean, I get it. I think Doug Peterson, the hot seat is really, really hot. Really, really hot. But Perry, I should have had this pulled up right at the beginning. I just pulled up. If you told me before the game Joe Burrow would go 29 out of 38, 324, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, and the Bengals also run for 124 and a touchdown, I'm thinking, Bengals probably won by, 2-3 touchdowns. Wow. If you watched my NFC East breakdown video, I predicted Jayden Daniels would be Rookie of the Year. I didn't see that though. Didn't see that. Led the team in rushing. 21 out of 23. I watched the Chiefs play the Bengals and Mahomes have a pair of picks and didn't really look comfortable, didn't have a good game. I said that Lou Anarumo, the Bengals defensive coordinator, if I was an AFC team, I would look at him to be the head coach. Then I watch a Heisman Trophy winning rookie come in, 21 out, 23, 254 and 2. Leads the team in rushing, has a rushing touchdown. That throw at the end of the game, the safety Geno Stone, nice free agent acquisition from Baltimore, just comes in. It's funny because I love the play call. You got rookie quarterback, safety blitz. You're in press man coverage, good coverage. You shouldn't that should never happen. It should never happen. Cincinnati outran them. If you look just at the box score, I mean, both numbers are really good. Burrow might have slightly outplayed them. I don't know what to tell you. I've been saying all week that if you play fantasy football, you have Jamar Chase. This is a must start. 6 for 118, 2 touchdowns. I mean, it depends what kind of league you're in. He probably got you, he probably got you close to 30 points. I watched the first half of the Jags game, and once I saw Washington take a lead against Cincinnati on the road, I figured, okay, well, Jacksonville's not coming back. So let's watch this game. But I fully expected the Bengals to win. You may have seen it. I should have brought it up. There's only been, I think, 5 or 6. I think it's 6 teams in NFL history that start 0-3 and have made the playoffs. I brought up yesterday that the 89 Steelers, which looked horrible for the first, had the worst 2 weeks of any team in NFL history, modern NFL history. 89 may not even be considered modern. Not only made the playoffs, won a playoff game, and came very close to beating Denver, a team that ended up going to the Super Bowl. I know the Chargers started 0-4 and made the Super Bowl. The Bengals seem snake bitten. Yeah. Harry, Trent Brown's out. He's out for the year. Amarius Mims played well. If you're banking on him stay healthy the whole year, good luck. If I'm the Bengals and it looks like I'm going to have a high draft pick, I probably go offensive line again. Maybe even tackle again. I don't know what to tell you. If you're a Bengals fan and you're watching this, you tell me. I mean, the thing is, Lou Anarumo I'm a huge fan. I 38 against rookie quarterback stuff. 38 against a rookie quarterback stuff to defend. T-Law's not the guy for the Jags. All the talent the Jags have on offense, T-Law should be putting up an MVP type season. Perry, you're correct. I have no idea. I really thought in 2023 last season, my preseason prediction is Trevor Lawrence would win NFL MVP. I thought he would be a guy that would be in the MVP running every single week. I don't have an answer. There is a possibility he could get benched. You gave him you're stuck with him. You gave him that huge contract. You built the team around him. I mean, the offense coordinator, Press Taylor, is I mean, he's a guy that, he's a good OC. Doug Peterson's an excellent head coach. But, I mean, look at this, 17, 18, and 10. That's 15 points a game. I don't know what to tell you. I have no idea. I have no idea. Remember last year what they do at the beginning of the season? They went ahead and fired their defensive coordinator. Now you come in and your offense looks terrible. I mean, 47 is a huge number, but I mean, what do you tell your defense if you're Jacksonville? Hey, we have a quarterback we gave, I think, what was it, 275 million? Is that what it is? You invest a first round draft pick on Brian Thomas Jr. I don't know why they don't use him more. You can see the talent. Travis Etienne was a guy that was putting up diet CMC numbers last year. Christian Kirk, they gave a lot of money to. Now Evan Ingram didn't play, but I mean the other tight end for some reason. I remember when they drafted him. I think in the second round, Preston Strange, something like that. I didn't really like the pick. I understand the logic behind it, but I don't have an answer. I have no answer. There is no reason. Look, let's listen to the schedule, okay? At Houston. Oh, when the schedule first came out, I was looking at this game like this is a battle for who's going to win this division. Even if Jacksonville pulls off an upset, even though Houston's lost 2 in a row, they're still in first place in that division. Indianapolis at home, okay. Bears at home, okay. New England at home. Green Bay at home. By the way, after they have 4 home games, I mean, so they have a chance to turn things around. Correction, I'm sorry. The London New England games are the London and New England games are in London. They do, it's kind of they go there every year, so they're kind of used to it. A little unfair advantage. They have a chance to get things turned around. After they come back from London, though, you got Green Bay, Philly, Minnesota at Detroit. I don't see how. I mean, you're going to be lucky to get one. Then you get a bye. Houston at Detroit. Okay, you can win one there. Jets, Raiders, Titans, Colts. Okay. They got to get things turned around. They got to get things turned around fast. But I mean, I'm looking at 0-4. I'm looking at 0-4. And then some London games coming up. We're here to help. It's official. I am 2-1 in fantasy, and it sucks. We're going to help you. Who did you start? Believe it or not, Daniels, even though he had a really good game, 1 rushing touchdown, 2 passing touchdowns, 255. There's maybe one or two that players that did a little better. So. Perry says the Bengals took too many risk-reward picks in the draft. Now people are seeing why you need a balanced approach in a draft. You take risk-reward guys and you take a safe pick. So here's a drill. Their 2 defensive tackles are very safe. Chris Jenkins is a guy I think is going to be amazing. The defensive tackle, I'm drawing a blank on his name, is guy on Mississippi State. Guy I also liked. I thought it was a safe pick. It was kind of, I really liked their approach. They went with Mims, risk, Jenkins, safe, Burton, risk, defense tackle out of the Mississippi State. I thought was pretty safe. Eric Hall Jr. has been playing some this year. I mean, that's a 4th round pick. He's providing you some time. So started Mahomes over Daniels. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. I would start Mahomes over Daniels this week too. But I'm just full disclosure. I don't know how long you've been following me. I'm a Chiefs fan. Chiefs, Chargers, if you don't know the history, these 2 teams always play each other tough. Always play each other tough. Craig, I apologize. I am looking at your email now. I'll respond to you on the show. Later tonight, I'm going to send you a reply because I'm looking at your lineup and it's not bad, but one issue that you have is that you have 0 production out of the tight end position. Kittle's injured and they're phasing Andrews out. You're going to there should be a waiver wire tight end, or you may have to make a trade. You have some interesting options at quarterback here. Jalen Hurts, Derek Carr, Dak Prescott. I'm going to level with you. Normally, I would just fire with Prescott. So what you have here is, Prescott plays on Thursday night. I like the matchup. I really like the matchup. I know the Giants had a bunch of sacks. I know that, but I'd be hard pressed to think that he's not going to come out and have a big game. They need that game. Philly is playing against Tampa Bay in a revenge type of game. I don't hate Hurts, and then Derek Carr and the Saints at Atlanta. You definitely, Atlanta has a really, really good secondary. They're at home. Tough loss against Kansas City. I would definitely think it's between Hurts and Prescott. Leaning towards Prescott, but let me kind of look at that a little more. I normally would tell you Travis Etienne is a starter, but I have no idea. Stevenson and John Robinson are solid. I'll throw out something a little crazy. Pickens, Flowers, and Rice. Rashee Rice is a must start right now. Pickens, and as far as a flex, if Mixon is healthy, and I don't think he is, that would be the guy. Maybe Etienne. We need to find a way to get you a tight end. I'm going to look over the waiver wire. I'll respond later tonight. I apologize because I just got it, and I advertise, hey man, go ahead and email me. After Monday Night Football, I went ahead and made the picks video. Please check it out if you haven't already. So I didn't get a chance to respond. I want to help you on the waiver wire. Get it. You need to get some points at the tight end position. Andrews is doing nothing. Kittle, I believe, is going to be out this week. But I will say this. I really like your running back room. Rashee Rice is a legit number one, and you have to figure. And then when Debo comes back, that would be probably the guy I would go. But yeah, having Debo and Kittle being injured is really, really, really tough. But I'll get back to you later tonight. I apologize I didn't get back to you today. Doug Peterson is a good head coach. I blamed T-Law on the defense. The Jags GM needs some blame as well. So what they did right after the season is they fired their defensive coordinator. I like what they did defensively. I know it blew up against the Bills and everything. I'm not blaming the defense. Trevor Lawrence deserves some blame. Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, deserves some blame. And Doug Peterson, he's probably going to start off 0-4. He's probably starting off 0-4. Got to figure out what to do. You gave Trevor Lawrence all that money. You kind of got to roll with him. Here's the drill. Look at the best head coaches that are available. Most people will tell you it's Bill Belichick. Fair. But Mike Vrabel is probably the number one name on a lot of people's lists. He's a defensive-minded coach. He's not really the guy that you want to develop a quarterback. Clint Kubiak, who did wonders the first 2 weeks with the Saints. We have to see what's going on there. He will be a hot name. Kubiak would be an interesting candidate. I know that a lot of people are going to shy away, but Brian Flores and the job he's doing in Minnesota, you have to consider him a candidate. Do you want to dive into the college ranks? I should know this. The USC head coach he's mentioned almost every year. This may be the year he wants to come into the NFL. There was talk years past about Dabo Swinney, the Clemson head coach both Lawrence and Etienne. I think that talks kind of died down, but it's you might have to do something crazy like that. Normally, when you have a offensive-minded coach, you want to switch the offensive-minded coach with a defensive-minded coach. Remember, Peterson was hired right after the Urban Meyer disaster, and that was a complete disaster. And it's funny because I looked at Urban Meyer and I really thought that would work. I had a lot of confidence that Urban Meyer, I liked the coaching staff he brought in. I thought it would work. I liked the way they built the team. I don't have a lot of answers, but I mean, remember Peterson won that Super Bowl, and then after that, just nothing. I mean, he was fired 2 years later. Derek, what's up? I think most people would. The matchup. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I would not have expected Jayden Daniels to outperform Mahomes. Going into this week, you have an interesting matchup. That just full disclosure, you have Washington traveling to Arizona. You have Kansas City traveling to LA. I know Arizona's defense has not been great, but they held the Lions to 20 points. The Chargers defense has been playing really well. So, I mean, I wouldn't blame you if you decided that, hey, Mahomes hasn't really produced this year. I'm going to bench him against the Chargers. I wouldn't blame you, but Chargers defense is really good. But I would strongly suggest going Mahomes. I wouldn't blame you if you did Jayden Daniels. I really wouldn't. The running threat, you're going against a bad defense. I understand, but I would strongly suggest that you stick with Mahomes. Sometimes this happens. I have the Baltimore defense, but I think they won't have a great season. Waivers, which should I pick up, would be Jets, Cowboys, Saints, and Houston. Okay, well, the Cowboys defense is dead last in the NFL against the run. They will figure it out under Mike Zimmer. It's just going to take a little bit of time. This week, I like the Jets. I know Denver did a really good job. Denver's going to New York. It's going to be a hostile environment. Plus, I think the Jets defense is for real. I like the Jets defense, especially Buffalo's playing at Baltimore. You could stick with Baltimore. I wouldn't be mad at you. This week, I would probably take the Jets over a rookie quarterback. The Saints you have going against Atlanta. That Atlanta's offense has really struggled. I don't hate that. Houston is going against Jacksonville. We just talked about Jacksonville's offense just being garbage. I would hold off on that one. To be honest, I know a lot of people would jump on Houston. I wouldn't blame you if you did. If you're going to pick one up, pick the Jets. I will say this. I know Buffalo's. I right now today I would have Josh Allen as my MVP. No interceptions through what 3 games, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. Very impressive. This might be the week he has a turnover too. I like Baltimore's defense, but I get it. If you're going to pick up one, take a look at the Jets. I like that matchup. I've been raving about Bo Nix, and I really like what he's doing. You're on the road to New York. It's going to be a tough environment. And also, one thing about New York is that they had an extra couple days because they're coming off that Thursday night game. So I kind of like that. I wouldn't blame you if you took Houston either. So. Derek, PPR, pick 3, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, Monty, Wilson, Higgins, Deontay, Reed, Shakir. I've been kind of hard on Shakir, but they're using him a lot more. Ravens secondary seems to miss Geno Stone a little bit. It's not terrible. Montgomery, I've been very, 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 very high on. T. Higgins had a touchdown, if I remember. I'm pretty sure he had a touchdown. I want to tell you he had a touchdown. I want to tell you he had a touchdown last week. Let me double check. I'm almost positive. I don't remember if it was him or no, it wasn't him. It was I can't pronounce his name. Could have a big week. I'll be honest, I was really impressed with Deontay Johnson. So I'm going to level with you. I would go Montgomery. I like the way that they're using him. Plus, you get to play him on Monday night. So I really, really like that. I like having a Monday night guy, especially a guy that can be used in the passing game. Probably going to get about 20 touches in a very big Monday night game. I'm full disclosure. I'm not sold. On Seattle. Not sold on Seattle. So Montgomery, I think, could have a huge night. I'm leaning toward Deontay. I'm leaning that way. Cincinnati goes to Carolina. Check out my picks video, by the way. I don't go into a lot of details on the game, but do check it out. Yeah, you know what? I'll reveal it. I have an upset. I have Carolina winning against Cincinnati. I'm looking at the way Cincinnati's been playing. I like the matchup. I shouldn't. And I mean, I've been harsh on Shakir. And I know it's a tough matchup, but he's kind of been the number one guy. I mean, the one thing I really like about Josh Allen is he's throwing the ball around. And one thing I would hate to tell you, a guy like Shakir, is that it wouldn't surprise me if he has like a 4-catch, 30-yard performance against Baltimore. It wouldn't surprise me at all. The thing is, though, is that it looks like he's the number one guy, even though Kincaid should be. Keon Coleman had his first reception. It was a touchdown. I got a feeling this is going to be that game that it's going to be the first time this season. I think Buffalo's. I understand they came back against Arizona, but I think this is just going to be a dogfight, and I think that he's going to have to really look for a guy. I got a feeling he's going to go to Shakir a little more. Just a hunch. Higgins is a lot of talent. It's a tough one. I would stay. If Jordan Love comes back, that's up in the air. You may want to go with Jalen Reed. If Love isn't playing, and I don't know, but if he's not playing, you want to avoid Reed. If he is playing, keep in mind, I think that they'll go more Watson. I also really like both their tight ends, but like every time I watch him play, like he's making great plays. My boy, I haven't seen him in the chat yet, but One Pride, big fan of his, Michigan State guy. So right now today, I would go Monty, Deontay, Shakir. Keep an eye out on you may want to put I think Montgomery is the one that I definitely want to play. I like that matchup. I know Seattle's defense has been playing tough. You're at home Monday night, big game. They had some injuries on their defensive line. Seattle did against Miami, so I really think that Montgomery may be. You may be going into this game low on points Monday night, and Montgomery may win the game for you. I mean, I do like Shakir because it looks like he's becoming the guy Josh Allen trusts the most. That's kind of my opinion. And that's why I'm kind of leaning towards him, because I like that when you're a number one. Look, you're going to be in a dogfight, Buffalo against Baltimore. I got a feeling Josh Allen's going to need a guy. Like I got a feeling this could be the game where he tries to throw Shakir like about 9 to 12 targets. Could I see a situation where he gets 5 catches for 30 yards? Yeah, I could. But I like, out of all these other guys, you really don't have a number one except for Deontay. That's why I'd say Monty and Deontay are 1 and 2. Deontay's your receiver. Monty's your flex. I'm leaning towards Shakir, but if Jordan Love plays, you may want to go Reed as well. And Higgins has talent. I mean, he's just now getting involved in the offense. I'll be honest with you. When I watch the Bengals, it's Loftus. I'm butchering that name. That looks like the guy that Burrow feels. He had the touchdown. He looks like the guy the Bengals have said, look, you're going to be the number 2 guy going forward. But we'll see. I liked Mims at 18, but I would have gone in a few different directions, to be honest with you. There was a lot of guys I thought that would have been better for the Bengals. And keep in mind, with Trent Brown being out, Mims has to play. Tyler Guyton is a guy I thought that was plug and play. Dallas is using him on the left side, and he's doing a great job. I think it's Jordan Mason is the starting. They put him at guard, even though he was adamant he wanted to play left tackle coming out of the draft. You could plug and play on the right side. To tell you the truth, they could have traded down, like you said. Zach Frazier is playing at Pro Bowl level. He's 2nd round pick for the Steelers at center. He's having this is one of the top 5 centers in football. I might even argue he's the best center in football. I'm a Chiefs fan. I got Creed Humphrey. Chiefs just gave Creed Humphrey an arm and a leg. Creed Humphrey is a better athlete, but for what they're asking Zach Frazier to do, he might be the best center in football. You could have taken him at 18. There would have been a lot of people rolling their eyes, but that was honestly going into the draft. You had Trent Brown as the right tackle. You had Orlando Brown Jr. as the left tackle. Is that interior that was a little questionable? Graham Barton is doing an excellent job in Tampa. Not the same job as Zach Frazier. Cooper Beebe is also doing a pretty good job in Dallas. That all those guys would have been available. Actually, it's funny. The guy that I might have liked better, but I would have played him at guard, would have been Fatanu, who's out for the year. But I did like that pick. Keep in mind, Mims is banged up, but when he did play, and he didn't play bad. I mean, I don't have a lot of faith in Washington's defense. He did give up a sack, but I mean, it was like a second play. After that, he played pretty solid. Keep in mind, if Mims stays healthy, he's going to be a top 5 tackle. That it's just a question of if he stays healthy. He didn't in college, and but yeah, I mean, hindsight's always 2020. But there was a lot of guys in the draft that are playing right now. They're playing at a high level. You put on the Bengals offensive line, they could have been doing a lot better. He wouldn't have been available in the 2nd round. I didn't really have an issue with taking him at 18 because this is a guy, if he stays healthy, is a top 5 pick. I right now, when I look at the Bengals, though, how do you give up 38 to a rookie quarterback after you play Mahomes so well? So, Mike Gesicki, that would be a good pickup. He's having a solid season. Eric All Jr. is probably going to be available. Um, I forget his first name. Solar played more than Andrews. Solar played more than Mark Andrews, and I can't think of that guy's name, but he might be available. Noah Gray, the Chiefs tight end, he is going to be available. He might be a nice pick for a touchdown this week. Doesn't have one. But Mike Gesicki, they're using him a lot. It's funny because the Bengals, every single year, they just bring in a new tight end, and they haven't had one. And it looks like Gesicki, he was a high second round pick from the Dolphins. It never panned out for him. Remember, Flores was in Miami, and they just kept on jettisoning players left and right. Gesicki was one of those guys, and Gesicki was in Flores' doghouse big time because Gesicki's not really a blocker, but he's like 6'6", he's 255, but he's not really a blocker. It sounds like I remember he had a good game against Kansas City. He had 7 catches, 91 yards against Kansas City, and it looks like the athleticism comes through. I remember, I'll never forget the combine ran like a 4.51 or a 4.53, and he's 6'6", he's 250 something. He had a good vertical. He used to be a star volleyball player in high school, as well as, I don't know how you play volleyball and football at the same time. He did it, but I watched him at Penn State. They had Saquon Barkley. I remember some jerk was trying to do like a hot take, calling Gesicki a better athlete than Saquon Barkley. I just unfollowed him. I didn't argue. I knew what he was doing. He was just trying to trash Saquon Barkley subtly, and it was just stupid. But I watched Gesicki play, and he never played like a 4-5 guy. It looks like Cincinnati's kind of unwrapped something there in Gesicki. He's never going to be that, tight end who's going to put up 100 yards and a touchdown week in and week out. But I would start him. Andrews, you're going to have to get rid of once Kittle comes back, and Kittle's never going to be 100% healthy. I mean, that's just the type of guy he is. Keep an eye on his status report, because if Kittle is healthy, he's the guy. Another guy you want to keep an eye on is TJ Hawkinson. He's going to come off the PUP list after this week. He's Pro Bowl caliber tight end. He's another guy that I would strongly consider. But if Gesicki's available, I would kind of expect him. I think that he'll have a few points. You have to look at one. Here's the issue with Cincinnati and their offense is that they have a lot of receivers, and they don't like throwing to the tight end. They've been throwing to the tight end more, mainly because Higgins has been out. But you have Higgins who's coming back. I'm butchering the name, Usloflis. I got to figure out how to pronounce that guy's name. He's developing more. It wouldn't surprise. And by the way, they use a couple of different tight ends too. Eric All, he's a 4th round pick out of Iowa. He's a guy, just if you didn't tear his ACL, probably a 2nd round pick. He's getting some touches too. I like the way he's been playing, but I can see a situation where Gesicki next week has 4 catches, 20 yards. Grab him right now, because you're getting nothing. And as much as I like Mark Andrews, he's not 100%. And their 3rd string tight end got more snaps than he did last week. So you really don't have those guys. I haven't checked the injury report with George Kittle, but let's do it right now. Questionable. I think even if Kittle is questionable, that would really be a guy that I would be wanting to start. If we can find somebody better, let's do it. But keep an eye on the injury report. I know I will. I started Wilson and Higgins, left a lot of points on my bench week 3. I'm sorry, man. I really am, because I Wilson had a touchdown. I bring this up here because I kind of glossed over Wilson, and he did have a touchdown, and I'm gonna level with you. I think that he's the guy that Aaron Rodgers likes the best, but I mean, I'm looking at 15 catches, 150, and a touchdown for 3 games. Um, I'm kind. I'm gonna love with you. I kind of glossed over him, even though I like his talent. I could see a situation where they just put Surtain on him the whole game. Yeah, almost. Yeah, yeah. I know it's tough. I could see a situation where Surtain just goes to Wilson the whole time, and I could see that happening. I also really like that Rodgers is using his running backs a little more too, but that's kind of what I was thinking. But I talked about Shakir becoming the number 1 option. Well, Garrett Wilson's the number 1 option, so. I think Seahawks are going to be good. They have a good defense and run game. The big question mark is Smith. They do have some injuries on the defensive line this week. I'm not a I'm just not sold. I'm not sold on Seattle, man. I'm not sold on Seattle. I'm just not sold on Seattle. Just not sold on Seattle. So that's just, call me a hater. I'm just not. Also starting Allen and Kincaid. It's funny because one thing I said at the beginning of the year, Raquan Smith might be the best middle linebacker in all of football. And I remember the Chiefs picked on him. They kind of isolated some matchups. I have a huge man crush on Dalton Kincaid. Josh Allen right now is my NFL MVP. I mean, he could have a tough game at Baltimore. I mean, he really could, but I mean, he right now he's my NFL MVP. You're starting them both. You're starting Gibbs and Monty, huh? That's interesting. I have to admit, normally I wouldn't like this situation. I do like it. And by the way, Perry's right, because Seattle's gone to Detroit the last 2 years and won. The thing is that whole regime is gone. This is a new regime. I kind of like the matchup with Detroit, because the one thing about Detroit is that if you have an one thing's about Detroit and the way Dan Campbell is, if you have an opportunity to be an underdog or to get a chip on your shoulder, they play so much better. I don't think they operate really well as favorites. This is the game where they can do that victim underdog thing where, hey, this is a team that's come to Detroit the last 2 years and beat us. I really think that they can do that. And normally normally I don't like things like that, but I can see it happen. I can see it happening. Full disclosure, check out my picks video. I just released it. I got the Lions winning. I feel good about it too. And I'll level with you. I'll level with you, Derek. I think this would work really well. I think this will work really well. And if I'm the Lions, I would quit trying this trick play bullshit. I know the hook and ladder made headlines and everything, but if I'm Detroit, I quit trying to be fancy and I say, look, I got this good offensive line. I got 2 good running backs. I have an accurate quarterback. Let's quit playing around and let's get physical. And I really think Detroit needs to quit being a cutesy finesse type of offense that does this BS hook and ladder stuff. By the way, I love it. I love the hook and ladder. Detroit needs to just get a little tougher offensively. They need to, it's funny because they talk about grit and toughness and kneecap biters, and then they have this cute finesse, trick play, try to goofy. They need to quit all that stuff, and they need to just, hey, let's just run the ball. I got 2 really good running backs. I have one of the best, if not the best, offensive line in football, probably the best right tackle in football. Let's get a little mean. Let's quit being all cutesy and trick play, and let's just punch somebody in the mouth. I think they should do that against Seattle, and I think they will. A-Rod starting quarterback for the Jets. The Jets have Gardner CB. I feel like I missed something. JC, what's up, brother? So Parkinson is one of these size speed dudes. It's kind of funny. Last year they drafted. I had to pull this up because I wanted to see his status. Last year they drafted Davis Allen. He was a dude out of Clemson, and I love this dude. And he ended up playing a little bit last year. He hasn't played this year. He was a guy I thought might be like one of my kind of sleeper picks. And I say that because I'm looking at the injury report and I don't know the whole story behind him. The one thing about Parkinson is that I've always been kind of a fan of Parkinson, just not really in fantasy, and it just things really haven't worked out for him, to tell you the truth. What would he put up last week? I'm trying to see what he put up last week. Three. Let's see here. 3 catches, 21 yards. I mean, I'm going to level with you. I like the dude as a player. I remember Seattle, drafted him, and they were like, can we get Noah Fant like almost instantly? If you're wanting to use them in fantasy, I get the logic behind it, because their team just kind of fell apart, receiver wise. I'd like to think that you can find somebody better. I remember really being high on the kid and just like that size speed combo. I coming out of Stanford and everything, but can you find somebody else? I like the player. I just just never really panned out, and I'm a level with you. I don't know the whole. Davis Allen has nothing this year, absolutely nothing. I just got a feeling that once he gets integrated into this offense, they're going to use him more. Just a hunch. Denver Gator! What's up, nerds? Whose teams are winning this week? Throw up your teams in the chat. I'll start. Broncos win versus Jets. Yes, I said it. Bring the jokes. Denver Gators coming in strong. Denver Gators says his Broncos are going to New York and beat the Jets. Denver Gator, I hope that you check out my weekly picks video. I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but there is a possibility I did not pick Denver this week. Do check out the video. It's fantastic. Perry, this is a great question. Do you think the Jets should go all in on Adams from Vegas? I actually don't have a so I really think the Raiders should really consider moving Adams, and I'll tell you why. Not because he's not a good player, not because they don't need him, but because they really, really, really need a guy. They really need some draft capital. So what they want to do is that they want a they want a quarterback in this draft. They really do, and they want the extra draft pick. The thing is with the Jets is that I know that Mike Williams, they want to get Mike Williams involved a little bit. Garrett Wilson's a guy. Malachi Corley, he was a third-round pick who moved in with Rodgers. They're using the running backs a little more. So I would understand the Jets saying, hey, or I'm sorry, I can understand the Raiders going, hey, can we get a number 2 for this guy? We're going to throw this season away. By the way, if you make a move like this, you're doing it because you're throwing the season away. You're probably moving on from Antonio Pierce. You're waving a white flag. You get rid of a guy like Adams on this team with a struggling offense. You're basically telling the organization that you're not keeping Antonio Pierce. You're throwing this season away, and that's tough. That's really tough. I mean, Antonio Pierce would have to. If by the way, if you make a move like this and Antonio Pierce can keep you around 500, you keep him. But if you make this move, you're basically sinking your ship for 2024. Honestly, what's best case scenario for the Raiders this year, though? What best case? Best case. 9-8 and missing the playoffs. The thing is with the Jets, I don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Jets. The only way I would do this is if you really didn't like Mike Williams and you maybe give Mike Williams back. Mike Williams had some success with the Chargers. The Raiders may say, hey, listen, we'll take Mike Williams back and we'll take a third, maybe a second. And Mike Williams, if you do something like that, you get a younger player who's injury prone, but it makes more sense for the Raiders to move on from Adams than it does the Jets to pick him up, in my opinion. But if I'm the Raiders, I only do this if I'm firmly convinced that I can't win this year. God, I'm so happy to see Denver Gator. Just Dre, what's up, brother? Man, I'm glad to see you back, man. What's up, Dan? I want to trade for a quarterback, preferably Jayden Daniels. I have Kurt right now. Should I keep him or go for the rookie? I'll let you know who else I'm going to have in my team down below. Okay. Cousins has not been playing well. I said this. If you watch, I only got a chance to do 4 of my division videos. I kind of dropped the ball this year because I meant to do all 8, but I did 4. And in the video, I said Jayden Daniels was my pick to win Rookie of the Year, and I stand by that. I look looks obvious now. I don't know how to say this because like he's the guy who's my rookie of the year. I love the way he played last night. I feel like Bo Nix still looks the most comfortable in an NFL style offense, and that I know that doesn't make any sense. But I will say this: both those guys are significantly better than Caleb Williams. I get it. You have Kirk Cousins. You were thinking he was going to do more. You're probably looking at that Falcons team and you're like, man, yeah, they got weapons. You know, they traded for Judon. They're ready, and he hasn't done much. I mean, and honestly, you know, the way that team is built, it almost seems like they should turn things over to Penix sooner than later. And it's not because Kirk Cousins is playing bad. It's just it's just there's no life in that offense. So I get it. If you think that his performance is going to continue to improve, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I hate about Jayden Daniels is how much he's running the ball and how many hits he's taking. I know he's listed at 210. I don't know he's that big. I watched this guy ever since he was a true freshman, and he's a skinny guy who could, you know, I honestly think if he really wanted to, he could be an NFL wide receiver, and I think he would be pretty good. You can't take those hits and continue playing. I know it's like, you know, the kid's 21. He won a Heisman, ran for over 1,000 yards in the SEC. He's having success right now. You can't do that stuff in the NFL. Believe me when I say this. You really can't. Moving on from Cousins makes a lot of sense. I'm going to take a look at the rest of your roster. Right now, I'm going to take a quick commercial break, but when I come back, I'm going to take a look at the rest of your roster, see what we can do. But I understand why you'd want to make that move, and Cousins isn't going to do it for you. Stand by as we take a quick commercial break before we get back with hour 2 of Afternoon Delight. As I take a quick commercial break to fix my hair, just a reminder, my award-winning NFL Weekly Picks video is out. If you haven't watched it already, make sure you do it. Not now. This is only a commercial. We still have more Afternoon Delight to give you, but do check out my NFL Weekly Picks video. It's awesome! Dan Talks Football is a proud affiliate of BetUS. You can get up to 125% bonus as featured, or do what I did and take a 20% bonus up to $2,500. I made a video where I show you my first $100 deposit, and thanks to the extra 20%, it turned into $120 instantly. This promotion isn't just for 1 or 2, but your first 3 deposits. Click on the link in the description and start winning today. Keaton from Keaton Talk Sports joins Afternoon Delight every Monday for the 2024 NFL season. Since he wants to be like me, he is releasing his weekly picks video later today. The problem is, when I pick more winners than Keaton does, what does he have to do when he loses? You tell us. Whoever picks the fewest winners each week does what? You tell us. Drop a comment here or in the weekly picks video. Now, back to some more Afternoon Delight. All right. Hour 1 is in the books. Here we're for hour 2. By the way, some great comments in here. A lot of comments I need to get to. Also, apology to Craig for sending me an email last night. I didn't get to it, but we're going to help him win his fantasy football league. I'm going to do everything I can to help you guys win your fantasy football league. Kirk Cousins, just to answer just straight, Kirk Cousins isn't getting it done. I understand the want for Jayden Daniels. I just full disclosure, even though he is my pick for rookie of the year, and I think he will win rookie of the year, until he learns to get down, he may miss some time. You may have some better options. Let's see here. Receiving core Diggs, Amon-Ra's really good. Jalen Naylor, Brian Thomas Jr. They need to get him involved. Kind of a rant here. Worthy is a hit or miss. Cooper Kupp, when he comes back, you have somebody solid here. But I mean, you can get by. Amon-Ra's a legit number one, and Cooper Kupp, when he comes back, is going to be solid. Brian Thomas Jr. has to get more involved, but whether he will or not. Aaron Jones, Montgomery, two very good guys. If you started Hubbard last week, you were in great shape. My tight ends are Mike, and Jay Ferguson. Mike. Trying to figure out who your tight end is. Mike Gesicki, I'm guessing, and then Jay Ferguson. I'm not sure which one you started. I don't know what Ferguson's numbers are. I know he's been banged up. Defense is Ernest. Ooh, you're in a defensive league. Ernest Jones, EJ Speed, and Nick Cross. I love these defensive leagues. I haven't had a chance to take a look at the numbers here. I do like EJ Speed quite a bit. And you're going to say, Dan, the Colts defense isn't playing well. Exactly. You want a defense. You want linebackers in a defensive league that are part of a not very good defense because they're getting a lot of tackles and they're putting up a lot of points. EJ Speed's probably got you a lot of points this year. Let me just take a look at his numbers here. And let me just take a look at his numbers here. He had 12 tackles last week, 34 total. Yeah, that's kind of what I was expecting. By the way, I love EJ Speed. Probably winning you, or probably getting you a lot of points here. Ernest Jones and Nick Cross, I'll be honest with you, I don't know their numbers off the top of my head. I should know this because I like both of these guys here, and I swear ESPN's website is just crap. All right. Ernest Jones had he had 13 last week. Wow, I did not expect that. Wow. 13 last week. Wow. The problem is with a guy like Ernest Jones is even though I think Tennessee's just a terrible team, they do have a good defense. I think is with Speed is that he'll make so many plays, and I forgot about Nick Cross too. Nick Cross had 10 tackles, passed. Yeah, you play a full 11-team defense. How's that work? You're not planning on trading one of your defensive guys for. You're not putting in. What I would worry about is that you're going to make a package deal, and buy into the hype and overpay for Daniels, who will win Rookie of the Year. Okay. There's also a good chance that he's going to miss a few games. I don't want you to do like a big package deal. And then I'm looking. I look briefly. I'll do like your defensive players that you have. Do you have a full defensive roster? I have a lot of questions. I have a lot of questions. I know I just admitted I missed an email, but full disclosure, Mondays are this is why I do fantasy football Wednesday and Thursday. Is that I'm going to give you a bunch of lame excuses right now for why I didn't respond to an email. Mondays, I do the show. Right after the show, I do Monday Night Football. Then I do the video. I should check my email. I didn't. There's a lot of things I want to look at here. I really feel like I'd be doing you a disservice. I mean, don't get me wrong. You know, hey, Kirk Cousins, I'm going to drop him, pick up Jayden Daniels. Sure. More than likely, Jayden Daniels isn't on the waiver wire. And if he is on the waiver wire, somebody's already picked him up. Now, if you have the option to pick him up on the waiver wire, you're number one. You just snagged him. Great. Start him over Cousins. But what you said that you want to trade. You want to trade, and you have a league that has defensive players, which I get a real kick out of. I don't blame you for moving on from Kirk Cousins. I would advise making a big trade for Jayden Daniels. The reason why is that you're probably going to overpay for a guy that is going to have some flash in the pan type moments. Probably going to win Rookie of the Year. Could very easily miss a few games. I have a feeling you can find somebody else. And it's kind of funny because Jeffrey puts, I don't think Geno Smith is the problem in Seattle. Honestly, you may be better off picking up a guy like Geno Smith, Jared Goff. I'll throw out a name that is doing terrible right now, but might be worth picking up is Justin Herbert. And you're gonna say, why? Dan, Justin Herbert's not even gonna play against the Chiefs. Exactly. After that game against the Chiefs, you may be able to get him cheap, and you may be able to build something there. I'm just throwing out some names here. I'm not saying pick up Justin Herbert. I'm not saying pick up Geno Smith. But after Monday Night Football, you're probably thinking, man, this is the guy I want to get. Because Cousins isn't getting it done. I get it. I don't want you to overpay because it sounds like you want to do like a big package deal and get rid of some guys. And you gave me 3 players. Is that are you in a league that only gives you 3? Or I have a lot of questions. Oh no, Ragnow has a torn pec. We lost our center. Ragnow's out for a while. Dan, what if Ragnow doesn't play? He has a partially torn pec. I mean, he tore it in the first quarter. And he says he wants to play, but the smart thing is you shut him down after to buy him. I didn't know about this. Ragnow is I'll never forget that I really thought they should have drafted, I think it's Brian Smith or Brian Kelly. I remember the guy. I'm drawing a blank on the kid's name. He was the center out of Ohio State, and he won the Remington Award. Matter of fact, he just retired this offseason. He had a weird blood issue. Bounced around the NFL for a while. This was a guy I was like, why'd they pick Ragnow? They should have gone out there. And great selection. Been a big fan of Ragnow. I didn't know he had a partially torn pectoral muscle. It's a little different, by the way, when you play center than guard, having that torn pec. I mean, because you may not realize it, but when you're snapping the ball, you know that torn pec, like every single, like, dude, if you don't believe me, here, I don't know if you can see this. Put your hand on here and do this. Like you can feel like it's just brutal. I didn't know this. I really, really, really didn't know this. Would it affect? Let me see here. They're calling him questionable, and he's a tough son of a gun. They really need that dude. When is your bye? I just literally had the Lions site pulled up, and I didn't have the. Oh, your bye is week 5, early bye. All right. Even if he doesn't play, I still like the Lions over Seattle. Full disclosure. You could easily play Monday night at home in a big game and then take off for the bye week and recover. A partially torn pectoral muscle doesn't just magically heal in a week. It just doesn't. It's going to be one of those things that's going to linger pretty much for the whole year. I still think that he'll play. And you know, you guys are kind of you know, fighting for that logic too. Is that it's only partially torn. He's the guy that's played with a broken throat and it needs surgery. He played a week after knee surgery. I think he'll play. He's just one of those guys. I mean, look, it's different because like an injury like this for me or you would probably put us out, you know, for several weeks, maybe a month or something. But these are guys that these are things that you deal with in the NFL. So, yeah. I wouldn't right now. Devontae averaging. Excuse me. I wouldn't right now. Devontae Adams is averaging 2 drops a game. That's uncharacteristic. So you have a player who is your number 1 receiver. I would argue he's your best offensive player. You're arguing that the Jets shouldn't pick him up. Now, keep in mind he has a great relationship with Aaron Rodgers. It's just that, you know, they picked up Mike Williams in the offseason. They drafted I don't know why he's not playing. But they're also using both running backs quite a bit, which I think is really, 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 really smart. I do support the Raiders trading Adams because you absolutely have to get trade capital in this draft because you tried last year to trade up for Jayden Daniels and you're shut down. It was like one of the worst kept secrets in the NFL that the Raiders wanted Jayden Daniels. I mean, they were on the phone every day with Washington. Washington's like, you know, quit calling me, you know, stalker, leave me alone. I mean, no, they listened, but I think getting rid of a guy that has a lot of value in the draft makes sense for the Raiders. And unless the Jets were not happy at all with Mike Williams, and there was some interest with the Raiders, you know, to get Mike Williams, which makes sense. I mean, Mike Williams is a productive, really athletic dude. I mean, this is a former first-round pick who at times has played really well. So you might be able to trade Adams, get Williams in return, and still get a second or a third. But I just don't think it makes a lot of sense for the Jets. It makes sense for the Raiders because keep in mind, and I can't emphasize this enough, if the Raiders do trade Adams, it's basically forfeiting the season. And it's also kind of a saying that, hey, Antonio Pierce, by the way, that wasn't like him being public saying, hey, some guys made business decisions. That didn't go over well in the locker room. Do they respect him enough and fear him enough to want to fight back? Or are they like, here's a guy that in a couple months isn't going to be here. I'm just going to play for me. I'm going to stay healthy. And, hey, maybe I leave in the offseason. You never know. Oh, Keon White, Zach. God, you got some great players. Should you trade for Daniels or should you stick with Kirk? I'm gonna level with you. I'm gonna level with you. I would probably stick with Kirk because I from what you're telling me, you're in a 12 league. You it looks like you'd have to give up. I love this defensive roster. I mean, you got all sorts of studs. You got all sorts of guys that I absolutely love. I just understand your frustration with Kirk Cousins, and I'm gonna level with you. I mean, you're going against the Saints, and he's probably not going to have a good game. I mean, let's take a look at these numbers. These aren't good numbers for the year. I'm going to give you his whole year. 56 out of 84, 626, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That's not a guy who's going to win you anything. You're playing you're playing the Saints next week. He's not going to have a good game against the Saints. I mean, what's the best case scenario what he does against the Saints? The one thing is that you're at home. Home against the Saints, home against the Bucs, at Carolina, home against Seattle, at Tampa, against Dallas. Oh boy, God, I'm looking at the next. I'm looking at the next 8 weeks. I'll be honest with you. I get why you want to get rid of Cousins. I don't blame you for wanting to get rid of Cousins. The issue is with Jayden Daniels is this is just old school. Anything buy low, sell high. Jayden Daniels is going to get. You're going to have to give up a lot for that dude just because of the performance that he had. If you really like, you're dead set on it, and I get it. You have to figure out who they're going to want. And I'll level with you. You're probably going to have to give up one of these really good defensive players. And I would just hate for you to do that because, like, I don't think that he's really going to, like, he'll have some weeks where he does better. Is there anybody else that you could trade for? Let me ask you this here. The guy that has Jayden Daniels, what does he need? I mean, like, I don't want you to do something crazy like get rid of Amon-Ra or EJ Speed. I mean, EJ Speed, by the way, is going to probably have 150 to 180 tackles. Keon White, I'm assuming you're new to my channel. This was one of my major draft crushes. Like this guy's probably going to have 12, 15 sacks this year. Zach Bond is just playing out of this world right now. And Shaq Thompson, I don't have a lot of faith in that Panthers defense. You want linebackers that play on bad defenses. Like Shaq Thompson's a guy that it's probably going. I don't even know. I didn't even look up his numbers. I don't need to. I mean, this guy is probably going to have 130 plus tackles for you in this season, maybe even more. And you're playing. You're playing. You have a bad defense in Carolina. That's why I love a guy like Shaq Thompson. I would tell you move on from Zach Vaughn because I like Philly's defense a little better. But I just love the way he's playing so much. You're going to hate getting rid of one of these guys. But, I mean, you have a guy like Ernest Jones who did really well. The problem is with Tennessee is that offense is so terrible. I mean, would the guy want? I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, is the guy a Chiefs fan? Because if he is, I would throw Worthy away in a heartbeat. And maybe the guy just really loves Worthy. I mean, I really want you to keep Kupp. Is he a Diggs fan? I would get rid of on this roster. I would get rid of Diggs. Are you sure? By the way, are you sure you can get Daniels? I'm looking at your roster, and I'm also looking at Cousins over the next couple of weeks. He's not going to do anything, so I understand the logic. Is there any other quarterback in your league that you could get? And whatever you do, I'm looking at this defensive team, and I don't want you to trade any of these guys defensively. So, it's a 12-team defensive league, and I love leagues like this. I'm looking at this defensive. I'm looking at your defensive players. I don't want you to get rid of any one of these defensive guys. I love all these guys. These are guys are just going to get you points every single week. Got to keep them on Raw no matter what. I would hold on to Kupp, even though I understand. I would understand Montgomery. By the way, I wouldn't have blamed you if you benched Hubbard, but I really think there's got to be somebody else except Jayden Daniels that you can get. What would the guy want? What is the guy? By the way, you're not trading for Jayden Daniels if that's who the guy started. But what would he want? I mean, you got some really, really good players. I don't want to see you get rid of. It would just really bother me because I love that defensive team. 3 weeks into the season, I'm at the NFC North as 3 pretty good coaches in Eberflus. I've said this over and over and over again. Quarterback's the one position you need everybody else. Quarterback's the one thing you need everything else externally. And it's funny because everybody thought they give him the skill position talent. Why you don't run the ball more, I don't get. And if you want to say Swift is fragile, great. Well, I'd rather Swift get beaten up, who's on, I think, a 1-year deal, rather than the guy I chose number 1 overall. And him throwing the ball 58 times a game is inexcusable. I seriously believe that after the way this season's playing out, I think the Bears are just going to completely clean house. I think the Bears are just going to say, look, we have Justin Fields who's winning in Pittsburgh, scoring 20 points a game. If I'm the Bears, I completely clean house. General manager, head coach, everybody. And I seriously, even I'm pretty sure Eberflus is a defensive minded coach. I would bring in a guy like Vrabel, a defensive minded coach. I would say I would use this draft to build up my offensive line, and I would just start all over. I would bring in a veteran and literally give Caleb Williams competition. Giving him the starting job before he even arrived in minicamp was just silly. I would bring in veteran, somebody Vrabel is familiar with, like Tannehill or maybe Marcus Mariota, and say that we're having open competition. I'll be honest, if the Bears wanted to win today, right now, they would start that Tyson Bagent kid. I know it sounds insane. That guy understands how to run an NFL offense. I don't think Caleb Williams does. The only time Caleb Williams looks good is when he's scrambling around and he thinks he's in the Pac-12 again. Tyson Bagent at least understands what NFL concepts are. I really don't think Caleb Williams does. I have no confidence in Caleb Williams right now. And by the way, if you want to point out his box score, great. That looks fantastic. He probably got more fantasy points than Bo Nix. Bo Nix is light years ahead of Caleb Williams. But Eberflus, yeah. By the way, this is an interesting game. Rams at Chicago. This is an interesting game. Spoiler alert. Funk. I know Funk watched the video. I like the Rams. They'll be 1-3, and I think that hot seat's going to start warming up. And seriously, if I'm Chicago, go look at what happened when you benched your quarterback in Carolina. Look what happened. That would be, if you're going to throw the ball 58 times a game, don't put Williams out there. Look at that Bagent kid. Which by the way, I wouldn't recommend either, but I mean, you're right. You are right. And Brian Flores, if I'm a team, I really look at Brian Flores and like, by the way, he deserved to get fired in Miami. Like he did not do a good job. I think people are going to say the same thing about Mike McDaniel here very soon. Because that looks like a disaster. The Jets need to win now. The loss to the Panthers was really bad. Adams could be a waste in Las Vegas. I think Vegas. Yeah, I understand it. To tell you the truth, if you're going to pick somebody up, if you're the Jets, I just don't think it's Adams. Unless you're just convinced Mike Williams isn't the guy. And I mean, and you also have to understand, like, you need Williams to have some value for the Raiders, which I really don't think he has. Remember, the Jets still have to sign Reddick, that they gave up either a second or a third. I mean, considering he's not playing, it'll be a third. It's a conditional pick. He has to play. It's like 70% of the snaps and get double digits worth of sacks for it to be a second. If not, it's a third. But no matter what, Philly's getting a minimum of a third for Hassan Reddick, who's not doing anything. So, I mean, it's another smart move by the Eagles front office, even if the Eagles lose this week, that front office, one of the best front offices in football. Yeah, the Jets are in win now mode. I mean, there's no question about that. I just don't think Adams is really the guy. There are some other players that the Jets may be interested in making a move for. I just don't think Adams is one of them. If I'm the Raiders, I'm making phone calls trying to see if Adams has some value somewhere, whether it's New York or maybe a team like Dallas. Throwing it out there. I'm not saying Dallas in particular. With all the injuries at receiver, could San Francisco make a move for, 1 or 2 years? I don't think San Francisco would be a good move either, but I'm just throwing some teams out there. I just don't see the Jets doing it. But you're right. The Jets are in a win now mode. It wouldn't surprise me if the Jets pick up somebody at the trade deadline. I just don't think it's going to be Adams. If I'm the Raiders, I really want to get rid of Adams, but I also realize that I'm waving, the white flag on this season by doing that. Yeah, Barry's speaking facts here. If the Bears had a quarterback, they would be a real threat in the NFC. Right now, Williams is not the answer. Not only is Williams not the answer, you have, Williams is not the answer. And, just the fact you're playing against the Colts, a team that has just been terrible against the run, and you throw the ball 58 times. Even if it was Patrick Mahomes back there, I don't think I'd want him throwing the ball 58 times against that Colts defense. I want to run the ball. But taking a rookie and having him back there didn't make any sense. Honestly, they should have lost that game against the Titans week 1. I fully expect the Bears to clean house, and if I'm a head coach and I take that Bears job, I want to make sure from the jump that if I want to, I can move on from Williams, or I can bench him. That by the way, they may the Bears after the season, the guy that they may try to go after is Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive coordinator in Washington, who worked with Daniels at USC. So, my buddy Tim texted me. He's in St. Louis right now. Thanks, brother. I honestly could see Williams not only imploding, I could see players in Chicago. It was kind of weird because I saw in Hard Knocks he seemed to kind of get along with everybody, but if you notice in the quarterback room, he sat on one side, the other 3 guys sat on the other side. If you notice in the meeting room with Eberflus, he always had his hands crossed around his chest. He was always leaning back. His answers are always short and cropped. Like he just seemed really uncomfortable. I know listen, in LA, it was fun and cute, painting your nails and wearing the dress, and Chicago's a different town. And when you're losing and you act like that, it may not sound like it's a big deal. It'll turn into a big deal. Yeah, they need help on the offensive line. Yeah, Nick Cross is a dude. I didn't realize he was leading the NFL in tackles, but I love all those linebackers that you have. That's why, I would really, really hate for you. Yeah, exactly. Because here's the drill. I looked at that. I'm looking at your defensive players, and I would absolutely not get. I didn't see one defensive guy I really want to get rid of. I understand you want to do some improvement over Cousins. I would really hate for you to get rid. I don't think you should get rid of any of those defensive guys. Is there a chance that one of your offensive guys, like maybe Worthy, who has a ton of value after week 1 where he had 2 touchdowns? Last week he did almost nothing. Stephon Diggs is a guy that depending on who you have in your league, Diggs to me would be a guy I would 100% want to move. But I'm looking at your defensive team, And I don't want you to get rid of any of those guys. I would try to move on from Diggs. I would try to move on from Cousins. I would try to move on from Xavier Worthy. You might have to figure out. I would not try to make a move for Daniels. I think there may be another. You're in a 12-team league. More than likely, there's a quarterback on the bench somewhere else that you may be able to grab. Can you get Justin Fields? This week I would not recommend it, but can you grab Bo Nix? Value on Baker Mayfield this week is probably low, and I'll be honest, I don't think he'll have a good game against Philly, but Baker Mayfield's a guy I think going forward might be a better option. Any chance that you could grab Andy Dalton? Trying to see here. I'm just kind of throwing some stuff out there, hoping it sticks. Let me ask you a crazy question. And by the way, like this week, it wouldn't be that good of an option, but let me throw something else out there. Could you make a move and get Deshaun Watson? And I know Watson's numbers have been terrible. He's going against a Raiders team with a really bad offensive line situation. But once that offensive line gets kind of cleaned up and you get Chubb back, you have a Week 10 bye. Okay, I mean, oh God, that schedule's tough. You go against Pittsburgh twice, Kansas City. Here's what I'm looking at though. After week 4, after the Raiders, you're at Washington week 5. Your offensive line may be solid. Deshaun Watson week 5 against Washington may have a great game. At Philly, you could have some issues. Cincinnati's defense looks bad. Baltimore's defense is not terrific. Chargers right now, it's a good defensive unit, but they're losing players left and right. You get a bye week. You get some players healthy, but after that, you got some really tough matchups. God, but I'm kind of spitballing here because I really think that Daniels is the dude that you're going to overpay for, and I think you may be able to get somebody. You may just want to hold on to Cousins because I mean. There's talent on that Falcons team. It's just that I watched them play against Kansas City, and I'm looking at Kyle Pitts, who the only time they used him, he got 50 yards on one catch. I mean, why aren't you using this guy? I mean, this is the deal. Okay, the Chiefs struggle against tight ends. You have this athletic freak in nature in Kyle Pitts, and he gets one catch. I mean, it doesn't make any damn sense to me. So. But God, I love that defense. Yeah, I mean, and this is something that other teams are doing. There's a reason. Look, I brought up Zach Frazier, one as being a top 5 center as a rookie, which sounds insane. There is a reason why Justin Fields is winning games and not turning the ball over. By that has to do with offensive line. One of the things the Buffalo Bills did which I'm a little surprised at, but one of the things the Buffalo Bills have done a surprisingly good job is their offensive line. Osiris Torrance is one of my major draft crushes. They snagged him in the 2nd round last year. Ryan Kelly, I think that was his name. All I know is he won the Remington Award at Ohio State. He was, a lot of people thought he was a 1st-round pick. Almost everybody had him rated higher than Glasgow. Everybody, but Detroit picked him, made the right move. So, every single draft, you should always take a flyer on an offensive lineman and defensive line. I know. 2 years ago, the Bears took 3 defensive linemen. Gervon Dexter's playing well, and then of course they made the trade for Sweat. But that interior offensive line, there was some good players in this draft. So. He's going to have a hard life after football, but he's an outdoors man. The Lions even did a fishing with. Oh yes, I remember that. Yeah. He's a big fisherman. A lot of those guys down south. He went to college at Arkansas. For those of you who don't know, and I think he lives there during the off season. I could be wrong about that, but yeah, I remember that. Look, a lot of those guys. Listen. You make millions and millions of dollars, but you know that 20 years from now you're gonna have some problems walking, moving around. Jack Lambert, he lives like down south on a farm, and he admits, hey, look, I wake up, I got some aches and pains, but I knew that. It was just released. Brett Favre announced he has Parkinson's disease, and I mean that's not really a surprise that he's having some issues post football. But yeah, a lot of these guys realize that. That's why I don't really have a problem with NFL players making all that money. By the way, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize I'm so far away from comments here. I'm going to try to make sure I get everything answered, but I do realize I'm kind of behind. The only quarterbacks on the waiver wire are Dalton, Caleb, Stafford, Nix, Jones, Levis, and Minshew. Every other good quarterback is taken. Kirk's the only quarterback I have. Stafford, I would really take a hard look at Stafford because that offensive line's coming back. Those receivers are coming back. I would really, really take a hard look at Stafford. I also like Dalton quite a bit. Don't tell Denver Gator, but don't avoid the Will Levis like the plague. Minshew is I'm not sold on him. I mean, I'll be honest with you. Dalton and Stafford would be 1 and 2. You could also look at Bo Nix, but I mean, I'll be honest with you, Stafford's solid. I mean, listen, just keep in mind, you got some offensive line issues. There's a very good chance he's not going to play all 17. I like Andy Dalton. I mean, look, you started Andy Dalton last week. You're probably doing you're probably doing pretty good. Grab it. So if these are on the wire, I would go Stafford or Dalton. Dalton has Cincinnati come to town, and they're in desperate need for some help. But you just watch what Jayden Daniels did. I mean, I seriously would not be surprised if Dalton has a really, really good game. Stafford going to Chicago, I mean, that defense is for real. This week, I would probably go Dalton over Stafford, but long term, I'm gonna throw it. Let's take a look at the Rams' schedule real fast, and I bring this up because they have a bye week 6. Okay, they have a bye week 6, and there's a chance you're gonna get Nakuda back. There's a chance that I think Kupp comes back week 8. I'd have to double check. Kyron Williams finally got some things going. But after the bye, listen to this. You got the Raiders at home. They look like a disaster, and you're fresh off of a bye. Minnesota on Thursday. It's a home game. It's a home game, and one thing about Minnesota is that it's a little different on the road. But I mean, good defense at Seattle. I'm not sold on Seattle, even though a lot of people are. Miami at home on Monday night. You want to start Stafford that game at New England. New England's up and down right now. Home against Philly. That's a tough one. Sunday night game. Good game. Week 12. I mean, you have some tough games down the stretch, but I'm looking at if you pick up Stafford, week 7 against the Raiders, that could be a big game. I'm also looking at week 10 against Miami on Monday night at home. That might be a game Stafford blows up in. And then I'll be honest, I'm not sold on Seattle. I think he could go up to Seattle, put up some numbers. I believe that. That home game on Thursday against Minnesota, I've been raving about the Vikings, but they're different on the road. I mean, I'm going to level with you. Also, week 5 at home, they host the Packers. I could see a situation where Stafford has some fun. You have a week bye. You have a week 6 bye. So, but yeah, you got to don't trade for Daniels. Pick up Dalton or Stafford, and I'm telling you right now with Stafford, I mean, he's got to stay healthy. But if he does, you got a chance to put up some major numbers after that week 6 bye, because their offensive line is going to come back. You're going to get one of those stud receivers, maybe both those receivers come back. And I mean, Stafford's always put up big numbers. So I would not make a trade for Daniels. I would pick up Stafford. You could also pick up Dalton, and I think he'll be just fine. If both those guys are gone, I would seriously consider Bo Nix. Don't take Daniel Jones and Will Levis. And I've been saying this for a while. Will Levis, I think, will get benched. When he does get benched, though, Mason Rudolph, it would not surprise me if Mason Rudolph looks good. Just there's some weapons. It's just I have no faith that Levis is cut out for that offense that they want to run. So I think we should draft an O-line with our first round pick and second in the draft. Holmes doubled down on corner. You did need corners. I feel like O-line trumps corners to make things worse. You give it a third, that could be a starter. Yeah. You gave up future draft picks for projects. I was not a fan of that at all. Bottom line, you could have drafted. Remember you traded with the Cowboys. I'd have to go back and check, but there's a good chance in the 3rd round you could have taken Cooper Beebe instead of the Cowboys. Cooper Beebe there's a good chance he may start on that interior. Even if he didn't earn a starting job, he would take over for Glasgow in a year or two. But I mean, I have a hard. I mean, honestly, I loved Rakestraw. I'm a little surprised he's not playing more. But I know he's doing well in special teams, and he's going to be a guy that will probably earn some more playing time in the future. But I mean, you had some holes at corner. I mean, you had some massive holes at corner. I mean, Terrion Arnold was. I mean, getting him at 23 was excellent value. The problem I had with drafting Arnold was that this is a guy that is not a finished product. I understand that Quinion Mitchell, also small school guy, and he's been up and down, but overall he's played a little more solid. He would have been my corner number 1. Right, I know Wiggins had a big play getting that fumble. If you're good, one thing about Wiggins is that he's actually playing pretty well with Baltimore, but I had an issue with a guy who weighs under 175. I mean, yeah, I know he had the speed. I know he can play man. But with Arnold, you got a guy who later in the season could be really good, but you had to know he was going to struggle early on. But the mid-round projects really bothered me in that draft. Keep in mind that guy you got from Canada, there's a chance he could be, in a year or two, he could be a really, really, really good starter. Could's keyword. At Denver Gator, where you keys to a Denver win. I'd love to know that too. Sorry, I'm so far behind. Perry, I don't have any issues with Holmes offseason cornerback. Yeah. He needed some help. So, I seriously, I think he will have a good game. I do. You can go Stafford too. I'm leaning towards Stafford, but you can pick up Dalton. Yeah. Jasmine Gray, what's up, man? I say, man. Sorry. It's funny. I remember there was a girl that used to come into the gym all the time. She worked there, and then she came worked out, and because she was attractive, she was always kind of stuck up a little bit. But then, I found out that she took care of her grandmother. Was a really nice girl. Never made a move. So I'll kind of always like, hey, you see a cute girl, ask her. I say brother, but Jasmine could be a guy's name. And nothing wrong, dude named Jasmine. Austin Eckler was in concussion last night against the Bengals in the third quarter. He will still play next week against Cardinals. He'll be fine next week. I saw that he was ruled out. I'll keep an eye out on that for fantasy, but I think he's out. Picking one was fine. Yeah, the kid from Canada down the line, but I didn't like that pick at all. Keep in mind when I've drawn, I can't believe I'm doing this. I've talked about him so many times. I've talked about him so many times, and I'm so sorry. He was former Chiefs general manager. He's like director of college scouting. He did the same exact thing. It was Dr. Tardif, LDT. He was from Canada. It was a 6th round pick. And anyway, long story short, he ended up he was a really good player. What happened is, when COVID hit, he was going to medical school, and the Chiefs had this exception where they could keep him on the roster while he was attending medical school. When COVID came out, they sent him to Canada. Chiefs took a flyer on Trey Smith, who had a medical issue. Without the medical issue, he would have been a 1st-round pick. Very unusual situation, but Trey Smith came into training camp, and they're like, we don't need Dr. Tardif anymore. But it worked really well. I mean, he was a really good player. He started several years at guard. He was a Canadian project. So I understand the selection. John Dorsey, that's the guy I was thinking of. I watched John Dorsey. A lot of things that John Dorsey did in Kansas City to help the Chiefs win the Super Bowl, I'm seeing almost the same exact thing in Detroit. That said, there were better options for people that could play this year. So, I have no problem with the offensive guard we took. The problem was Ragnow was going to retire, and he's had injury issues the last few years. Get a young center, could have been a pick in the 2nd round. The Manu pick was a reach, just like Martin was. Who was the center he should have taken? Graham was already there, so Goff said, Frazier. Sorry, I'm trying. I want to rapid fire through these. I want to make sure I get all of them. I didn't realize how far behind I was. The guy has Daniels is 0-3. Ooh, I think he's desperate. Maybe he has Garrett Wilson, Higgins, Jacobs, McBride, Flowers, Stevenson, Jameson, Kirk, Puka, Trevor. Oh, yeah, I get that. God, yeah, I get that. Yeah, he's made. Yeah, he probably thought Lawrence, would be there. So, Yeah, you have a good Funk has a good point here. Draft gurus. I'm not one of them. I gave them I think it was a B minus. I loved their first 2 picks. I didn't like the rest of it. 2 years ago, I gave the Lions a B plus, which is higher than most people. So draft gurus have hated what the Lions have done based on quote unquote value. Yet in the 3rd season, they made it to the NFC chip game without corners. Now the Lions have allowed 17 points a game. I also messaged for Lamar. He told me to shoot him a trade. I'll tell you his team right now. We have a good starter on the offensive line. Our healthy our offensive line backups are iffy at best. Frazier was taken 10. Yeah, Frazier was a 2nd round pick, and the Steelers picked 10 plus. Which if you wanted Frazier, you would have had to trade up. Keep in mind, there's no way you could trade up after you traded up for Terrion Arnold. So you couldn't trade up again. And I would have hated that, by the way, if the Lions traded up in the 1st round for Arnold and then traded up in the 2nd round for Frazier. And the thing is with Frazier is I liked Frazier. I had no idea. Like the Frazier was a hindsight. Like I had no idea. Frazier right now looks like a Pro Bowl center. I had no idea he was going to be that good. None. So, and I don't think most people did. I didn't understand why the Dolphins went with Tyler Huntley and Trey Lance over Ryan Tannehill. Huntley they just picked up. I don't think that he was really in their plans. Keep in mind, Tyler Huntley's kind of an interesting situation because they brought him into Cleveland to compete with Jameis Winston for the backup spot. And they also had Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who excelled in preseason the year before. I was a little confused about bringing in Tyler Huntley, but Jameis Winston has a firm grip on that number 2 spot. And Dorian Thompson-Robinson's a guy that I was really impressed. He played a little bit last year. I think he started 1 or 2 games, and I like what I saw out of him. But they cut Tyler Huntley, and Baltimore wisely picked him up on the practice squad. I understand because he has some starting experience, but the best of my knowledge, Trey Lance is still in Dallas. Brian Tannehill's looking for a home. If I was Miami, I'll be honest with you. I don't know why Tannehill hasn't been signed. I think he makes a lot of sense in Tennessee. I think if you release Russell Wilson, which it doesn't look like they're going to do, he would make a lot of sense in Pittsburgh because he's worked with Arthur Smith. He's familiar with what they want to do offensively. Also, Ryan Tannehill's traditionally been a really good locker room guy. Apparently, they've named Russell Wilson a captain. I just saw him on the sidelines looking mad as hell. So, folks, I'm going to take that same commercial break here, but I will be back. I'll do everything I can to answer all your questions, but stay tuned as I take a very quick commercial break. As I take a quick commercial break to fix my hair, just a reminder, my award-winning NFL Weekly Picks video is out. If you haven't watched it already, make sure you do it. Not now. This is only a commercial. We still have more afternoon delight to give you, but do check out my NFL Weekly Picks video. It's awesome! Dan Talks Football is a proud affiliate of BetUS. You can get up to 125% bonus as featured, or do what I did and take a 20% bonus up to $2,500. I made a video where I show you my first $100 deposit, and thanks to the extra 20%, it turned into $120 instantly. This promotion isn't just for 1 or 2, but your first 3 deposits. Click on the link in the description and start winning today. Keaton from Keaton Talk Sports joins Afternoon Delight every Monday for the 2024 NFL season. Since he wants to be like me, he is releasing his weekly picks video later today. The problem is when I pick more winners than Keaton does, what does he have to do when he loses? You tell us. Whoever picks the fewest winners each week does what? You tell us. Drop a comment here or in the weekly picks video. Now, back to some more Afternoon Delight. Yes! Oh man, what a great 2 hours of Afternoon Delight. Thank you so much for all the comments, all the questions. I just shout out to Craig here. I'm sorry I did not get your email until now. I'm going to do everything I can to help you win your fantasy league. Also, some of these comments that I'm behind on, I'm going to try to read all of them. I want to make sure that I get to everything here. Jeffrey Champion says, I think Devontae. Oh God, that would make a lot of sense. That would make that's a win for everybody. The Steelers have drafted really well over the last couple of years. I think they're building a nice team together. Devontae Adams, I think, would work really well. Plus, you also kind of double down that if you have some issues with Pickens, but that makes a lot of sense. I'll be honest. I don't know how Devontae Adams would feel about going to Pittsburgh. And I have no idea if he has a no trade clause, but that actually does make some sense. I know the Steelers are trying really hard to get Ayuk. There was a trade already in play. It didn't work out. The Steelers are a team I could see making a move at the trade deadline. Devontae Adams, I'd be shocked if the Steelers did that, but I understand. I'll be honest, if I'm the Raiders, I would do it. And if I'm the Steelers, I would do it. Traditionally, it's not a move Steelers does, so. HR wants to get who is it? Who's HR? Drawing a blank on who HR is. I want to be paid unless you're paying him long term. There's no point to trade for him. Adams has chemistry with A-Rod. HR. The thing is, he does have a lot of chemistry. HR. He has Gabe Davis, Shaheed Gibbs, likely a Pierce, Braylon Allen, Bucky, Kenneth with Judon Johnson, Keenan Allen. Oh, he's got some hurt dudes. His defense, Jalen P. Devin Lloyd's a guy like Buda Baker, another guy like Jared Verse, another guy like Diggs. I just people are talking about him being defensive player of the year when he had all those picks, and he gave up big plays, made big plays. Yeah, I could see why he wouldn't why he'd want to make some moves. Yeah, I'll be honest. If Stafford's available, he was the dude that I would snag. That's the dude I would snag. Trayvon Walker may be better for me to go for Lamar. If this dude has Lamar, and is this guy also 3-0? Because this guy needs some help. Gabe Davis has been a disaster, likely solid. I don't know why I'm drawing. Pierce with the Colts. Yeah, he's struggling. Braylon Allen's a player I like, but not really winning a lot of fancy stuff. Bucky Irvin's always going to split some carries. Kenneth Walker's really, really, really good, but he might miss this week as well. I've always had a huge crush on Keenan Allen. But I'll level with you. I would try to get Lamar, but you could probably make a better deal for Purdy. I'm telling you this right now, though. I would 100% grab Stafford off the waiver wire and you're good. You can go Stafford or Andy Dalton. I would not, because I saw your defensive players. You're gonna, that defensive lineup is awesome. These are some pretty good defensive players. Your defensive players are better. I mean, your defensive players are better. You're probably lighting it up on defense. I'm looking at your team. I'd have to go back, and I want to, because I'm behind on comments. I want to make sure I get them all. Because I love your defensive lineup, and you have some solid players on offense. The only thing you're struggling with is quarterback. You substitute Stafford for Cousins, you don't have to get rid of anything, and your quarterback position will upgrade. You upgraded at the quarterback position. You could also do Andy Dalton, and I think you'll upgrade as well. I'm just telling you right now, because of that bye with Stafford. After that bye, you could be looking at a top 15 fantasy quarterback with a lineup. I love that defensive lineup. And you also have some legitimate number one players. You got Amon-Ra. You also had a running back I really like. Gesicki's doing okay. If I remember correctly, you had Gesicki and somebody else at tight end. So forget making a trade. You have some good options with Dalton and Stafford on the waiver wire. Get one of those guys. I get it. It was the and Trayvon Walker. This dude has Trayvon Walker. I have to look at his numbers, but I believe it or not, even though Jacksonville's 0-3, he's not having a bad season. No, he was a second round pick. He went. I want to quote you 44. Cooper Beebe went to the third round. He was. I think he was the pick that Dallas got from you guys. But Graham Barton went in the first round. He went to Tampa, yeah. I wouldn't mind Dak. By the way, this is one thing. I get it that you want to make a fair deal. But one thing I encourage is that when you're in fantasy, the one thing I want to encourage is that you always want to make a fair deal so that they accept and you don't get the trade vetoed. But screw that other guy. I want you to win. I want that guy to be a loser, and I want you to be a winner. So screw him. I'm gonna keep doubling down though. I get that you need to make an improvement at the quarterback position. Use that waiver wire. In a couple weeks from now, you got Stafford, who's going to be a top 10 to 15 quarterback, maybe even better. I mean, Stafford's one of those guys. Look at those numbers he's putting up in Detroit. I know they had a good defensive performance overall, but they still gave up 24 against San Francisco, who has nobody. That defense is going to struggle, and you're going to have to win some games in shootouts. And in a couple weeks from now, Stafford's going to have some weapons. And that offensive line is going to be better. I'm kind of pushing for you to pick up Stafford because I really think that you got some really good potential to do some really good stuff. Remember tank for Tua. So yeah, Miami wants to win now. And I know that while they put Tua on IR, if he's cleared, he'll come back and play. If I was Tua or anybody even remotely close to Tua, I would tell him to hang it up. But it kind of looks like the organization and Tua wants to push to come back. We'll have to see. But the Dolphins come draft time, that's going to be interesting because if they pick top 10, and a quarterback's available, I mean, when somebody like Shadir Sanders, who's going to be an interesting name in draft time, when let's just have some fun. Let's say Dolphins pick 9th. Shadir Sanders is available at 9, and Deion said he's already going to be involved in Shadir Sanders' draft process. So they fly him down to Miami, and they say, "Listen, man, we got Tyreek Hill, we have Waddle, we have A-Chain. We're going to fix up the offensive line. Let's make it work." Jackson Powers, he went to the Raiders. He's actually been banged up. That's kind of a interesting question. Would I trade Devontae Adams for Michael Pittman Jr. in the second and fourth pick? If I was the Raiders, I would do this, no question. But I do know that the Colts signed Michael Pittman to a 3-year deal, and I also do not. So here's the deal. It's Howard Ballard. He was in Kansas City for a long time. He was, I believe, he was in Kansas City when the Chiefs took Mahomes. He was the number 2 guy. That's a smart dude. He would not make that move. If I'm the Raiders, I would make this move without any question. There is no way the Colts are going to give up multiple draft picks plus a young, talented receiver for a guy like Adams. No way. No way. And if I'm Adams, I would look at the Colts and say, F this. There is no way Devontae Adams would be interested in going to the Colts. No way. If I'm the Raiders, I would do this, but Adams, I think, has veto power. Adams will not play in Indianapolis, and there's a 0% chance Indianapolis is getting rid of Pittman and a second and a fourth. So, he's banged up. That's kind of what I thought. Where's a push-up, bro? Aiden's World, welcome, brother. King Dog Sports. I don't know if you saw the commercial or not, but we have to do something for Monday. I don't know. So we're a thonged away. Oh, it's on Reddick. That's okay. Yeah, it's on Reddick. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. Oh, man. Seahawks game could be a loss. Seahawks the last few years have had the Lions number. What are your keys for a Pats win week 4? Oh, man. Slasher! Thought we had gotten blown out by the Saints. Great win. Great win. Holding the NFL's highest scoring offense at 13 points. And you know what's interesting is I really wanted to spend today kind of previewing things. Now this matchup against Tampa Bay is very favorable. And this is a fun game because you got 2-2-1 teams that are fighting for playoff positioning. And you also have 2-1 teams that can take a loss and still be in decent shape. But it makes that Philly Tampa Bay game look really, really interesting. And also very impressed with the way Denver played. But by the way, I have to go back. I have to watch Denver and Tampa. I'm going to watch some clips. But what I'm hearing is that Tampa's offensive line kind of struggled against Denver's defense, and I got a feeling Philly's defense is a little better than Denver's. Not taking. By the way, Denver has some players on defense. Saquon Barkley, I think, is a legitimate MVP candidate. Right now, I'd give it to Josh Allen, but Saquon Barkley, if he has a huge game against the Bucs, By the way, spoiler alert. By the way, Slasher, my weekly picks video is out. Make sure you check it out. But I like Philly's chances. The best part is you got 1 and 2 teams on Thursday night. One of those teams is going 1 and 3. One of those teams is in a lot of trouble. Whoever loses on Thursday night, whether it's Dallas or New York, is in a ton of hurt. Can you imagine if Dallas loses to the Giants and goes 1 and 3? Can you imagine the media storm? Can you imagine that? And look, if you're New York, you lose at home to Dallas and you go 1 and 3. You got to hear about that for 10 days before the next game. And the Dable hot seat was already turned up. So I would love to hear Slasher's thoughts. Keaton Talk Sports says, Payer, we definitely have to tackle better. 13 missed tackles against the Jets. We should run the ball down to 49ers defense. There's some cracks on the other side of the ball for the Niners. CMC, Debo are out for the game. Purdy has some back soreness. We have to put pressure on them. Yeah, of all the games, this is the one with the biggest point spread. And I feel good about New England covering this game. They had a few extra days. The one thing about New England is that their defense is really good. I put Christian Gonzalez on Brandon Ayuk the whole game. And then I forced, Jennings to try to recreate that performance. The Jordan Mason, it was really good week 1, pretty good week 2, not so good last week. And we'll have to see. But it's kind of a low-key game. Of all the games you're looking on here, you're probably glossing over New England and San Francisco. But it's a game that is kind of interesting and I think could be really, really good. Obviously, I'm going to be doing play-by-play for Chiefs Chargers. Unfortunately, because I live here in Vegas, during have the Vegas game on at the same time, so I finally have to break down and buy Sunday ticket, which I've just been dreading spending the money because it's not cheap. But I'm looking forward to it. And also, if you've never done the Sunday ticket, I'll give you my recommendations because there are some games that I want to watch that aren't available here. The thing, I have YouTube TV, and so for those of you who have been tuning in when I do the live stream games, you may have noticed I'm like a play or two behind. There's a delay because it's a streaming service. I was watching all the Kansas City local channels, and then I switched it over. Just wasn't thinking, I switched it over, and I should just left it alone. I should just left it with Kansas City, so now I have to pay extra for the Sunday ticket when I could have just left it. So live and learn. And by the way, there's nothing locally I really want to watch here in Vegas. I did subscribe. By the way, they have like an unlimited DVR. That's one thing I love. So I signed up for like the Raiders post game show. I haven't watched it yet. Tons and tons of college football are on my DVR. I haven't had a chance to watch as much as I wanted to. Yeah, I have some. I have to do the Sunday ticket for Chiefs Chargers, unfortunately. Pretty good game from the offense and defense, minus the Hurts turnovers. He was completed his passes at 76% rate and had over 300 passing yards. There's I didn't know he got spit on. So I'm gonna level with you. The hit, I think it was Zach Bond. No, that wasn't Zach Bond. I'm sorry, former Saint. That's why I had that name. I forget who it was who hit him. It was a clean hit. I tell you that. I didn't know somebody spit on him. if that's the case, if somebody spit on him when he was knocked out, then that should be a suspension. The play that knocked him out, though, I'm sorry, man, it's a football play. I'll go back and watch just to make sure I'm wrong, but no, it looked like a clean play. It just sucks when you see a player get knocked out like that. And I'm a huge Javonte Smith fan, so yeah, I would strongly recommend, 100% recommend picking up either one of those guys. I'd lean towards Stafford because in a couple weeks you're going to have an offensive line that's going to be at near full strength, and you're going to get either Puka or a Cooper Kupp back. You may get both of them back, and if you get both those guys back with an upgraded offensive line, I don't think the Rams defense, which is playing better, by the way, and it's not going to be terrible, but I don't think they're going to be good. And what do you want in fantasy? Well, you want an offensive team that has to put up points on the board, and the Rams are that team. I also like Dalton because even though the Panthers played good defense against the Raiders are a terrible, terrible, terrible defense, or a terrible offense. And one thing is that the Panthers, I really fully believe, are going to have a bad defensive unit for the rest of the year. However, like I watch that defense, I'm like, Clowney played good, Shaq Thompson played good. J.C. Horn is a guy with a lot of talent. I mean, I was adamant. I was adamant because they took J.C. Horn over Patrick Surtain, and I was adamant that was a huge, huge, huge mistake. And they're regretting it. But he's a solid player. So I mean, you got some. I mean, you got some talent on defense, but I just think the defense is not going to be good in Carolina, and I fully expect Andy Dalton. He doesn't have near the weapons Stafford has, but I mean, there are some players on that team. I mean, he had a great week against the Raiders, and by the way, the Raiders do have a good defense. It's just that offense is abysmal. So I seriously, you could go either one. I'm leaning towards Stafford, but you could pick up Dalton. But yeah, don't trade anybody because I like your team, especially that defense. And I would love it if I got it. There's not a lot of guys that have the defensive fantasy football league. My buddy Tim has one, and you have one. I would love to dive into that a lot more. I wish more people played in the defensive league because it's a lot of fun. And there's a lot of people don't realize this, and you do. You want linebackers on defenses that aren't good because those are ones that get you the points. A lot of people want to get a linebacker or a player on a defense that's got, a top 5 defense, like the Steelers. Is Patrick Queen a better linebacker than EJ Speed? Probably. Who's going to win you? Who's going to get you more points? It's going to be EJ Speed all the time. I didn't even look at the numbers for Patrick Queen. But which player would you rather have? Well, it's Patrick Queen. Which one do you want in fantasy? You want EJ Speed. I'll be honest with you. EJ Speed is in fantasy like one of the best players that you can get. Do I think he's one of the 10 best linebackers in football? I don't know. He'll put up more numbers than Nick Bolton for the Chiefs. I'll tell you that. That's not even a question. Which player's better? Probably Bolton. Yeah, my Chiefs bias is yeah, my Chiefs bias is there, but you get what I'm saying, and a lot of people don't realize that, but you do, and because all you need on your team is just an uptick at the quarterback position. You really should be in good shape. Slasher, how hot is the seat for your head coach? Some people around Detroit thinks he could be out this year and that Ben Johnson could replace him. What are your thoughts on that? Ooh. Seriously, Ben Johnson in Philly is interesting. Ben Johnson in Philly is really, really, really interesting. KTS said Devontae Adams would look good on the Jets. It's funny because I don't know what's going on. I should have looked it up, but Marakai Corley, they traded up in the third round to grab him, but there was some talk about Corley before the draft going late first. So I really like that pick. Remember, he moved in with Aaron Rodgers. He was a guy I was kind of like, you want to take a look at what's going on there. But he hasn't been playing. I like the fact that the Jets are using both their running backs. Braylon Allen was a guy I just had massive draft crush on, late fourth round pick. He's only 20. But he's somebody that, I'm glad the Jets are getting involved in their offense. One thing that Philly did is they made that trade for Jahan Dotson. I thought that was a low-key smart move. When A.J. Brown comes back. But the thing is, Devontae Adams, he signed a deal. I don't think financially it would make a lot of sense for the Eagles. Now with the Jets, Marakai Corley, if you're not aware, they called him the Yak King. He had more yards after contact than any other receiver in college football. Big dude. He's like 6'1", 6'2", 215, 220, something like that. Mike Williams, a 6'4" dude. They wanted big, large targets, with Garrett Wilson. But a guy like Devontae Adams, I understand. I think he'd make a lot of sense. It sounds like the Jets want to do something different. But if I'm Philly, with A.J. Brown being out, even though I do like the Jahan Dotson trade, I wouldn't want to move on from him. Rhinos Roundtable. Hello, Dan. Hello, chat. Just here to pop in and say hi. Go Colts. Hopefully, Anthony Richardson can step it up. Out of all I'm a level. I was going to talk about this a little more. Out of all the games this week, I like Pittsburgh the most. Pittsburgh's a 1-point favorite on the road against Indianapolis, and I love matchups. And you have a team that struggles stopping the run against a team that wants to run the ball. The Colts defense, I think, will cause all sorts of problems for Anthony Richardson. If you're going to bet on the game, I would take Pittsburgh in 1, and the only reason I didn't put the action down is I feel like I'm missing something. But if you're going to bet on the game this week, I'm really high on Pittsburgh. 1 point, that's almost the same thing as a pick 'em. Richardson plays well. You never know, but you got an NFL quarterback who's completing less than 50%. That bothers me. All the talent in the world. I don't like how they're utilizing him. I love for Johnson to replace him. I feel like Sirianni is heavily overrated and team bails him out from being fired. Slolik and Johnson are my two guys this offseason at front office. Let's go Sirianni. I like both those picks. I'm going to throw out a complete dark horse candidate who I think may get some interest as an NFL. First of all, Clint Kubiak, who's taken over as the offensive coordinator with the Saints, throw that guy out there. That makes a lot of sense. Now, keep in mind, the Saints lose Eric McCoy, their center, and that's a big loss. Not a big name that lots of people know, but they were really depleted on that offensive line to begin with the Saints, and then they lose McCoy. They lost him early in that game. It's not a coincidence that McCoy being down and out, and the Saints not having the same offensive output. Those things coincide together. He's a name, but the guy that oh crap, I can't believe I drew a complete blank on his name. Okay, I remember now. Brian Griese, the quarterbacks coach for the 49ers, played quarterback. Denver Gator knows who he is because he's the one who took over for John Elway. He was doing TV. He was part of that Monday night crew. And instead of TV, he just wanted to get into coaching. He's the quarterbacks coach in San Francisco. A lot of times you have to go from quarterback coach to offensive coordinator to head coach. Not always. There's a guy in Kansas City who never been an offensive coordinator, and he's doing okay. You may have heard of Andy Reid. You know, a lot of people don't realize that Andy Reid was never an offensive coordinator. He went from tight ends coach to quarterback coach to head coach. Brian Griese, the 49ers quarterback coach, I heard somebody say that he's probably the smartest dude in the NFL. That's a dark horse to be head coach, but if I'm Philly, Andy Reid was a quarterback's coach, and that worked out pretty damn well. If you want to say, listen, Andy Reid took Philly to, I think, what was it, 4 consecutive NFC championship games, 4 or 5. I only won Super Bowl. Little more success in Kansas City, but you know, your father was a Hall of Fame quarterback. You won a national championship at Michigan. It was a controversial issue with Michigan that year. That's why I do it in quotes. I thought he was pretty good on Monday Night Football. I don't know if he got fired. I don't know what the whole deal is, but he's a guy that, you know, he's the quarterback coach in San Francisco, and there's a reason why, you know, a lot of people are giving the credit to Shanahan, but Ryan Griese deserves a lot of credit for a guy who was Mr. Irrelevant to being a guy who's you know, depends on how good you think he is, but I mean, took him to a Super Bowl. That's pretty good. Bobby Slowick, I thought he was somebody who he interviewed for a couple jobs. I was a little surprised. I actually thought he was going to get the job in Tennessee. I thought that would make a lot of sense. I thought that would make a lot of sense for him to go to Tennessee. Vrabel's my number one guy. I think Mike Vrabel should be a head coach somewhere. I was really surprised. So he needs to. And I really don't think Ben Johnson's ready for a head coaching job. We'll have to see. I mean, this is the dude who was the hottest name going into the offseason, and he decided to stay there in Detroit. And I'm looking at Detroit's offense taking a significant step backwards. So, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I'll be honest, him in Philly would be interesting. And the reason why is that I could see Philly getting, you know, creative. And also it'd be, I think, keep in mind, you have a guy in Jared Goff who's a lot complete polar opposite than Jalen Hurts. You take a guy with a creative offense, do you use his legs or not? And that's something I've never seen before. Personally, I think Ben Johnson just didn't like any of the I don't think he wanted to work with a rookie quarterback. I think when you're a first time, okay, so for example, Dave Canales in Carolina. Well, he has Bryce Young as his quarterback. Okay. He had to keep his defensive coordinator. Normally, you don't want to do those things. Now, keep in mind, they gave him enough authority to go with Andy Dalton. Not all head coaches have that authority. A lot of people think that if you're the head coach, you can do whatever you want. No, a lot of times, if you have a high drafted player, you have to play that dude, even if you got somebody on the bench. By the way, you can go back and Shanahan's like, yeah, ever since our first mini camp, I went and I talked to John Lynch and I'm like, yeah, Purdy's the best quarterback on the team. But they gave up 3 number ones for Lance. So Lance had to play. And switch gears a little bit. Isaiah Pacheco, he was a 7th round pick. They drafted CEH in the 1st round, but I remember in training camp, Keys and Gooch were telling me that this Pacheco guy is going to be the starter. And I said, no. And he wasn't right away. It took a couple of weeks. And then finally they're like, yeah, we got to do it. Here's the deal. If both these guys were 3rd round picks, Pacheco would have been the day 1 starter because one guy's in the 1st round, one guy's in the 7th round. Ben Johnson may have looked at Washington and say, look, I have to play this rookie quarterback no matter what. Now I'm going to pass. Chicago, if they make a head coaching change, will their coach do what they'll probably tell the coach is if Brian Poles, the general manager, keeps his job, he's going to bring in head coach and he's probably going to tell him, hey, look, Caleb Williams is your guy. You have to make it work. And if that's the case, then, are you bringing in the head coach from USC? I'm drawing a blank on Cliff Kingsbury, who was with the USC coaching staff last year. Those 2 guys would be top tier candidates. Where you get a guy like maybe Mike Rabel, who doesn't want to do that. He may be like, I can't do that. My opinion and pure speculation is he probably turned down the Washington job because, hey, I don't really want to deal with a rookie quarterback, and I want to have the authorization to pull him if he, if I remember correctly, and I might not have this correct, in Atlanta, they didn't have a quarterback. They had Desmond Ridder, by the way, who Arizona cut, and they had Tyler Heineke, and he was probably like, okay, well, we have the 8th pick in the draft. Well, can I trade up in the draft or, and I keep in mind the general manager. They brought in the general manager and Arthur Smith, and I remember the very first draft. Arthur Smith was there. It was public. Number one, it should have never been public. There was a battle, but Arthur Smith wanted Kyle Pitts, and I think general manager wanted quarterback, and I forget who it was. But they did have a battle, and they went with Arthur Smith's guy, and then he was gone. More than likely, if he brought in a head coach with no experience, he was going to make the decision, not Ben Johnson. So, sorry for the rant here. Let me make sure I get all these questions in. I can see the Colts trading Pittman because it started his season. The contract they just signed him on this offseason makes it really, 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 really difficult. You would have to eat some money, and a lot of times there's a, and I don't know this, a lot of times you have a no trade deal, but remember there's some issues. A lot of people thought Pittman would leave, and the Colts gave him a lot of money. You have to find a trade partner who's going to deal with low production and a lot of money. I understand the Colts, because the Colts had no idea. Adonde Mitchell, who they got in the 2nd round, should not have been available. I think it was pick 53. No way he should have been available at 53. I actually thought the Chiefs should have drafted him instead of Xavier Worthy when they traded up. But I could see the Colts saying, yeah, let's move on. But who's going to eat? If I remember correctly, it was a 3 year, 75, 77. I'd have to look it up, but I mean, it's a lot of money. Who's going to pay 25 plus million for a guy who right now is a wide receiver, what, 2? I mean, who's gonna do that? I mean, is there a team out there that's like, God, I need to give 25 million a year up for Michael Pittman? I don't see that team. I can see the Colts being interested. But I'll be honest with you. If I'm the Colts, I keep Pittman because this is a young, talented player. I know Alex Pierce had some highlight moments. You got Josh Downs, you got Donnie Mitchell, but I still keep Pittman, and then I try to fix whatever's wrong with Anthony Richardson. Keep in mind, you might have to get a new head coach because I don't like the way they're using Richardson right now. Don't like that at all. I know. I knew the schedule was tough. I didn't know it was that rough. I mean, the one thing about Dallas is one of those few teams that talent-wise they can match up with all these teams. Zimmer needs to fix that defense fast. I of all the things that I thought I would say about Dallas, I didn't think I would say that the defense was going to be an issue, especially stopping the run. But you're looking at several teams that want to run the ball and a team that can't stop the run. I mean, Dallas needs a win this week. KTS says he only had Dallas winning 9. I had Dallas winning more than 9. I still think they win double digits, but they need to get things right away. Yeah, they better bring their A game. It's keep in mind, I mean, they got a new defensive coordinator, and even though I loved Zimmer, he's got to fix some things. There's some problems with the Cowboys defense, so possibly. God, 1-5. Oh wow, he's not. That's pretty funny. Oh, that's pretty funny. I'd rather the Eagles trade for Max Crosby than Adams. They can have our first round pick too, and whatever they want. The dude's a goddamn. I can honestly say there's no way the Raiders will trade Max Crosby. You have a much better chance of getting Devontae Adams. But oh God, that would be a lot of fun. Crosby is a high motor player. Yeah. I really think that Detroit, if I was Detroit, I would strongly try to make a move for somebody. I can tell you this: there is a 0% chance the Raiders trade Crosby. They love that dude. They got a guy on the other side who was a top 10 pick in Tyree Wilson. He's been off again, on again, injured again. All the physical tools to be a superstar, just can't stay healthy. I haven't watched enough of him. I'm curious if I'm curious if his motor's always running. I'm just curious. I don't know. There's some players that let me ask you this here. Let me ask you this, Perry, because you brought it up earlier, and I couldn't think of who it was. Hassan Reddick is not signing with the Jets until he gets a deal. I mean, the guy's a sack machine. He's a high energy, athletic dude. He's very undersized. I mean, to be honest, it's kind of weird because he's like 6'1", 245, but I remember he was with the Cardinals. They tried him at outside linebacker. It didn't work. They tried him at inside linebacker. It didn't work. And only due to injuries, they had to put him at defensive end. And then the light bulb came on. And even though he's the size of an outside linebacker, he just plays best at defensive end. Philly signed him to a huge 3-year deal. And I knew after I knew. So what happens? He had, I think it was 17 and a half or 19 and a half sacks year one. After that year, remember they drafted Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. And I knew that when they drafted Nolan Smith, the plan was to move on from Hassan Reddick. Now, sacks dropped last year, but Philly didn't care. They were redshirting Nolan Smith. But I mean, if you can't get them, you have to pay them. I mean, if you and Perry's on point. If you trade for Reddick, you got to sign him, so you have to give him the money he wants. If you're a team that needs to win now, I think Detroit is. You trade for him, sign him a front-loaded deal. There's not too many other teams other than Detroit that should do this. You already. Now here's the problem: is that you gave away a lot of your draft capital for next year in this year's draft. But I mean, if I'm the Lions, I would inquire because the Jets are giving up a 3rd round pick. They would love to get a 3rd round in return. If I'm correct, the Lions don't have a 3rd or a 4th. You'd have to look at it, but Slasher, no, you guys don't get Max. Max was asked what team you wanted to pay for. He said Detroit without hesitation. And by the way, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm here in Vegas. There's a 0.0000% chance the Raiders trade Max Crosby. But if I'm the Detroit Lions, I would reach out to Hassan Reddick and see what I could do. I'd also reach out to the Jets. The Jets dropped the ball. I mean, could they recup and maybe take a 5th or I have no idea. Is there a player that the Jets would want that you guys aren't using? Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker. I'm having some fun. I actually tell you the truth, the way the Jets offense is running and the way that team's built, they're not built to take on a guy like Hendon Hooker, but I think of all the teams though looking to add a piece at the trade deadline, I think the Lions are one of them. And if I'm the Jets, I think I have to admit that, hey, look, we messed up with Hassan Reddick. Let's just move on. So Perry asked, when do you think Penix starts? I originally didn't think he would start at all this year, but I mean look at this. 10 points, 22 points, 17 points. 39, 49. So 49 divided by 3 is just over 16. That's really not going to cut it. You have a tough stretch of games here too. Now you have a week 12 bye. Okay. I want to answer all the questions before I end. And I think I'm caught up. I kind of rapid fired through some of them. It's kind of fun because this schedule for the Falcons gets really interesting because they have 3 divisional opponents. So even though they're 1-2, they're in perfect shape. they're in really good shape. Saints at home, Bucks at home, at Carolina. They go 3-0. We're not even talking about Penix. You're 4-2, and you're winning that division. Seattle at home, then at Tampa Bay. I mean, gets a little tougher. Dallas at home, that's a tough one. At the Saints, going to be tough. At Denver, week 11 could be a tough game. Weather could be an issue. Then you have your bye. Okay. I'm looking at the next 3 weeks. Next 3 weeks. You're at home against the Saints and the Bucks. You got to win at least one of those games. You have to win at least one. Okay? At Carolina, you have to win that game. So you're 2-1 at this point. Home against Seattle, at Tampa Bay. I'm thinking 1-1. Okay, I know it's a little confusing here. So let me just. When you play Dallas, week 9, I think you have to be about 4-4. And home against Dallas, at the Saints, at Denver, I think you have to win at least one of those 3 games. So when you go into the bye, the magic number for me is 5. If you're at 5 wins, if you're 5-6, you're going to roll with Cousins. If you have 4 fewer wins going into that bye, you have 6 games of the season. By the way, their final games. After bye, here's your schedule: home against the Chargers, at Minnesota, at Vegas. I'm looking particularly at their last 4. Okay, at Vegas, home against New York Giants, at Washington, home against Carolina. There's a legitimate chance if I'm Atlanta and I can hover around 500 into the bye, I'm looking at the last 4 games of the season, and I'm thinking I could win all 4 of those games. All 4 of those games are very winnable, even though 2 are on the road. So going into the bye, the magic number for me is 5. If you're at 4-7 going into that bye, I think you have to see what you have in Penix. I didn't really give you a good answer. I really think you have to. And the reason why I say that is this defense is really good. The Falcons' defense is very good. They got some players. They got some real players on defense. That offense is struggling. A guy like Penix offers a running dimension, and he's got a big-time arm that gives you the ability to throw downfield. If you're at 4 wins or fewer going into that bye week 12, you really need to look at Penix. If you're 5-6 or better going into that bye week, you stick with Cousins, because those final 4 games of the season are very, very winnable. I mean, I'm going to be honest, home against the Chargers after a bye, let's say you lose that. Let's say you go 5-7. Make sure I got my math right. Yeah, you go 5-7 at Minnesota. You can even go 5-8. You can go 5-8, win those final 4 games of the season, go 9-8, and win that division. That's realistic. That's very realistic. So I'd love to know what Keaton. Keaton's been in the past. He said week 13. That's when they have to buy. Chris T, what's up, brother? Trade Ayuk and Godwin for Diggs and Olave. Ooh, no, absolutely not. And Ayuk, you're going to get a guy whose production is just going to keep going up and up and up. I know you're looking at Jennings and his 3 touchdowns. That's more of a flash in the pan. Godwin for Olave. I'm a big fan of Olave, but absolutely do not do this. I mean, Nico Collins is the main dude in Houston, and I don't care what Diggs did or what. No, you do not make this trade. Do not make this trade. Ayuk is a guy that is going to start getting some production. The holding out of training camp. Look. San Francisco needs a win. Kittle may not play. Deebo Samuel's out for a couple of weeks. You gave this guy $120 million. You're just going to find a way to make this work. So and then Godwin's a guy who's going to be. He had a bad week against Denver's defense. Tampa has a tough matchup, but Godwin at the end of the season. I'm assuming you're in a PPR league. He's probably going to have like 80 to 90 catches for 1,100 to 1,200 yards and about, 7 to 9 touchdowns, 7 to 10 maybe. Olave, probably a slight uptick in production, but you do not make this move, please. Great seeing you, Christy, in chat. Yeah, defense are built to stop the pass. The run game is relevant again. Yeah, I love it. I love it. This trade for Reddick, you got to sign. Yeah, okay, yeah, I got that. At this point, Reddick's value is 5th round. Yeah, the Jets have 3 options: sign him, trade him, for whatever you can get. Just let him sit. The headache of the situation is better to trade. Yeah, if I'm the Jets. Will McDonald, by the way, has 5.5 sacks the last 2 games. So I like the fact that if I'm the Jets, even with Jermaine Johnson being out for the rest of the season, if I'm the Jets, by the way, has anybody signed Justin Houston yet? I mean, you could find a dude like Justin Houston. You could. By the way, like Baltimore did that, like a couple of years ago, just signed him off the street, and he played really well. I played in Kansas City for a long time. Love Justin Houston. I would get rid of him for a 5th or 6th round pick. I would in a heartbeat. And the team that makes the most sense is the Detroit Lions, because you could line him up opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Don't have to, really go into a lot of detail. Just say, get after the quarterback and you can make things work. So, guys, I got to wrap up here. Final minute of Afternoon Delight. Craig, real fast here. I'm so sorry I didn't get your email. I'm going to get back to you later tonight. I'm going to email you back. Let's see if we can find you a tight end so you can win this week in fantasy football. The Falcons do well in their division. Yeah. Yeah, I seriously, I hate the way they use their players. That's why you might have to make a move. Zach Robinson has to figure some things out. He's Falcons offensive coordinator. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Tomorrow is Fantasy Football Wednesday. I'm going to bring it. I hope you guys bring it. Hope everybody see everybody back for Fantasy Football Wednesday. Have a great night. Enjoy Afternoon Delight. And I'll be back tomorrow for 3 more hours of Afternoon Delight. It's Fantasy Football Wednesday.